Hello and welcome back to another cast. While I might be doing the intro, you're going to surely be joined by Maverick to cast a game between Bosstoss and Killean. Should be a good scrap between two of the best players. Let's get right into it.
What's going on, guys? Running it back with another replay. This one not on my usual channel. Collaborating with a little bit of the RTK clan. You know, my boys. Guys I usually do the weekly new player tournament event for, and just have had a really good time with this event that we hosted about a month or two ago now. They wanted to get the replays cast, and I had a great time myself with the event and was more than happy to pitch in. So we've got a really high-level game between Killean here on the Dowie and Bosstoss here on the Beastmen. Beastmen obviously going really wide, as you can see. Just tons of Slangors, two of those. You got two Goreherd over here and two Pestigors on the other side. So going for a nice little setup on the infantry. I do like Slangors in this matchup. Pestigors with the AP, obviously pretty solid. Can be a little lackluster at times, depending on the usage of them, but Bosstoss with his really good micros should be able to get them going to actually utilize their really high charge bonus. 31 is pretty substantial for infantry. It's one of the reasons why Beastmen are such a strong faction and cause such big problems for the Dowie. But as you can see here, I'm just going to go ahead and kick this off. We've got a pretty brutal opening here with some nice blasting charge action going right out the gate for the Dowie here. Ekron's Miners get some good damage on the Pestigors. Pestigors on the other side here. Norgrimling's Ironbreakers really hammering these guys. And the Brotherhood of Grimnir is in the mix too. Kind of an insane situation though. Dowie right out the gate, completely surrounded here. Ungol Raiders do manage to squeeze away. They were deployed directly on top of. And in the ensuing fracas, you can see that the Brotherhood of Grimnir gonna get peppered by these arrows pretty badly. You know, these Ungol Raiders are dirt cheap. 425 gold unit that can just absolutely lay waste to some really expensive units, despite having low damage values. Because they have a pretty quick reload time, their DPS really isn't too bad, regardless of their overall mediocre stats. Because the cost basis for them is just so nice and affordable. Norgrimling's Ironbreakers are really throwing it down, but the Ekrons get run over immediately. Brotherhood of Grimnir here are really struggling. Now the Tuskor Chariots are getting in, and these Chariots really devastating versus Dowie. I prefer Razorgore Chariots personally, but the Tuskors can be vanguarded right out the gate, and also are fairly effective in their own right despite having lower mass. Getting caught in the Norgrimlings, though, is pretty rough, and while you can see that the Brotherhood of Grimnir is being shot to bits right now, they have cleared out a lot of the infantry. You can see the Ungol Spear Herds are running away here. There's been a lot of Pestigor casualties, and just general chaos in this particular set of fights. Tuskor Chariot's getting hammered by the Norgrimlings, and now the Dragon Slayers and Ungrim are getting up onto the point. Gonna be a really nice set of units to actually try and hold that position, but you can see on the back objective here, the Beastmen with their Vanguard deployment options, and the fact that they could spawn so far forward on this map, just like right up on the home point of the Dowie even. While the Norgrimlings and the Lords are actually starting to flip this #1 objective around. In fact, it never got capped by the Beastmen. They get completely overrun on their back point. You can see here that the Beastmen have grabbed it. Grumbling Guard are getting run down. There was another minor unit here, and you can see them being run off by the Slangors, and the Slangors are having a great old time. 500 value on these ones here. 97 on the others, but they're running down some miners, get some kills, and then they'll just maneuver around. And I'm really worried about the Grumbling Guard here. Completely surrounded. You've got the Ungor Spear Herd in front of them, attracting the majority of the attention, which is allowing the Slangors to get on the flank and just get their amazingly efficient anti-infantry attacks in on the flank. And these guys get very strong as Pleasure Through Pain charges up. They can throw down some serious heat, even at a pretty beleaguered state, and around half HP is around where they're most optimal in my experience. Usually takes about, what, you know, 2/3 of their HP to be gone before Pleasure Through Pain is all the way up. At around the halfway point, though, with these guys getting the buffs that they do with the extra speed, charge bonus, and melee attack, as long as they win that first fight decisively enough, they can get you 1200 value pretty easily, and it is really disgusting when that starts swinging heavily against you. Regardless of what faction you're playing, but especially for the Dowie who are already slow, and enemy infantry being more effective than them on a pretty general basis. You know, when they've got their really heavy-hitting units like Giant Slayers getting absolutely dogpiled in the open field by Gore Herds, slaying Gores, what are you really going to do here? I mean, the Giant Slayers are a great unit, and I think in theory they wouldn't even be bad against the Beastmen. But because of the size of this particular battlefield, and with the fact that there's so many good chariots and light archers for the Beastmen, they may even be a little too risky. Killean clearly intending for going for the Giant Slayer build, though, and the heavy foot squad in terms of heroes, so that he can actually just try and grind through the Beastmen on points. Because he just wants to get these guys up on objectives and then force just prolonged fights that ultimately end out with the Beastmen's lower leadership units running away while the Giant Slayers stick around long enough to allow for miners and other units to get in and then bail out the remains of these units from the bad spot that they inestimably end up in. So, back here, you can see the pressure onto the cannon was pretty hot and heavy. Ungor Herd were back here, Gore Herd were back here, a lot of casualties as you can see, and Miners doing a pretty good job of holding it off. Decent value on those guys, and now the cannon is opening up, and looking to hit the Razor Gore Herd. Razor Gore Herd are a great unit. Definitely would be pretty weak to the Giant Slayers, but still pretty solid overall against the Dwarfs, because they can just crush through miner units. Because of the high charge bonus and weapon strength on the Razor Gore Herd, they actually take down miner models very efficiently. And, I mean, they're fairly inexpensive too, and that's usually the hallmark of the Beastmen, is just fairly cheap, cost-effective units, and they just have so many of them that you just cannot find a way to get rid of them all before enough of them have, just pile-drived into you and are just running over your forces. You see the miners here, getting some blasting charge damage off on the Razor Gore. Might even rampage these guys. It would be really nice, and there we go. We do get the Feral Rampage going. Cannon can get back online. Cannon has gotten 700 value. I actually think another cannon would have been a better option than this big Vanguard in the middle point. While the Dowie have been scrapping over it very effectively, you can see the tickets are looking really brutal for them. 192, and not getting any higher, versus the triple cap of the Beastmen here with 744 already. Bosstoss putting in an amazing performance and a nice value lead, which is usually pretty hard for the Dwarves to make up. Dwarves are very good at playing with a lead, but pretty bad at coming from behind. We'll see if that changes. But I am a little worried. You've got Cynagors coming up. You've got one Ungor Herd that's still very healthy. Pestigors have been resummoned, and this Great Bray Shaman's just chilling in the corner over here. All he has is Pit of Shades. He's got about 600 value. I would imagine he's gotten one good Pit of Shades off, probably on the Norgremling Ironbreakers, who have eventually been ground down. And now look at this. You've got Razor Gore Herd just everywhere, all over the place, and some Slayers have come out, and they will be a nice little bulwark against these piggies, but Cannon is getting jumped on yet again and getting shut down for what has to be the third or fourth time now. It just can't stay online. When it is active, it has gotten good value. It is keeping the Butchers of Kalkengard very honest back here. The Butchers haven't really been in too many engagements. They've got about 150 value. You can see Ungrim and his Giant Slayer Corps grinding through some pesties here. You know, okay value on them all, but the Dowie hero squads oftentimes, as is normally the case with these infantry foot characters, they just don't get opportunities to choose their engagements. They oftentimes get swarmed by cheap units, peppered by missiles. The enemy characters and heroes just maneuver around them, and while they do end up getting respectable work done, it's usually not enough for them to actually carry games. Now, there are exceptions to that, but it does appear that Bosstoss has juggled those threats very efficiently. He has not really allowed them any effective fights. He's just throwing in Gore Herd, and then the Pestigores, Ungor Herd, just to grind these guys down and keep them occupied on a cost-effective basis. Synagore throwing axes get pushed back. This cannon has been kept online so well, and I will say that Killean, every time he's fighting in his own backline, has been winning pretty decisively, but by the time he's getting up to his own home objective even, the Beastmen are replacing their losses well enough that it's not really making enough of a difference. Now the Slayers, though, this Slayer unit finally getting some effective melee value for the Dowie. 122 kills, 600 value, a lot left to give. If they get after the Synagore and they close the gap for even a few moments, they could maybe drag down a few of these models, but Bosstoss is doing a really good job of delaying this cap. Look at the control on these Synagores. Getting them nice and lined up on the edge of the point, and they're doing a pretty good job of staying away from the focus fire of the cannons for the most part. They maneuvered in pretty cleanly and avoided the worst of it. They just delay for a few moments while the Dowie have their infantry moving forward. Now that there's more stuff here, Boss is just going to disengage cleanly, get away, and look to hold after his own home objective, I believe. Actually does look like the Dowie are going to capture this one eventually. Boss, though, pulling back some of the Ungor Herd actually does help delay the cap for a few seconds longer. It's going to be a long uphill game here, but with the two cannons, can it happen? Boss has a few supplies in the bank. 1,300 is definitely a good chunk of change to have, but it's going to be pretty hard to close ground on these cannons. They're getting a little far away from the actual reinforcement points now, though. So Killean's going to have to juggle his aggression very carefully, and he's got a long way to walk, as you can see. I mean, just miles and miles of distance to close here onto the home objective of the Beastmen, and this is a classic Dowie example of them struggling in domination mode, where they survive rough early game trades, and where other factions have the mobility to quickly get up on points and start forcing dangerous fights for their opponent that keep them honest on the back objectives. Beastmen are faster than the Dwarves. Dowie just don't have anything that can move faster than like the 40-foot speed of something like a Slayer. And so they just have to waddle interminably forward for ages and ages, and it allows for a lot of pressure to come out while the Dowie are positioning their forces to get up on the other objectives that they may have barely been able to capture, right? And this is brutal. Cannon is getting unsummoned because Ungor Herd here from Bosstoss rushing up the field and actually forcing Killean to get rid of that particular cannon unit. Would have been really useful. I mean, the Butchers of Kalkengard are going to have a little bit more of an opportunity to look for engagements now. Very conservative play from Bosstoss, but again, in many respects, that's just the right call to go for here. You don't have to overextend on your opponent's back objective right now. You just wait for a little bit of a chance to open up for the Dowie to push forward and for you to actually be the one taking the aggressive dives onto their units. Hold your own points, and look at this, recontesting up onto the number one, that Ungor Herd, in very good time. Retreating back with their good speed, Butchers of Kalkengard coming in to run over this very beat-up miner who's trying their best. Not going to hold that point for long, and it looks like even if the Beastmen were to lose the number 3 objective, they've resecured the number 1 very firmly with the Butchers of Kalkengard over here. Cannons are turning their attention over, but good control with the throwing axes getting right around the flank here. No defenses for this cannon now, and I think it could be good night for that crew. Cannon gets resummoned in the back line, but too little too late. Just not going to be enough here. Cannons do take a few of the Butchers down. At least one model's dead, and some of the other ones are suffering for sure, but They're holding happy as can be. Senegors all over the place. Great weapon senties are a very strong unit. Getting away from the Giant Slayers and leaving the Gore Herd in place to actually grind through this engagement. Look at the damage that they're doing to this unit. Oh my goodness. Giant Slayers getting halved on their HP values in mere moments, and that is going to be a very nice win for Bosstoss. Excellently played, honestly. That Vanguard early out of the Dowie could have caused more problems than it ended up actually creating. Because Boss with his micro is able to get all the Ungor Raiders away from any of the melee fights and the blasting charges, and he just very cleanly encircled all those units and just never let the pressure off. Even though he lost a lot of those Pestigors and the Ungors, and never capped that point until well into the middle stages of the game, he was value trading incredibly because of the Ungor Raider fire, and we can go take a look at that before we close this one out. You can see 1255 on an Ungor Raider is just absolutely bananas. I mean, like I said, 425 gold unit. Tripling its value is just an inestimable benefit for you as a faction. And this can happen fairly regularly if you play well with these guys. You can see the other two didn't do nearly as well, but you lay the costs out in front of yourself, and you're talking about 1,275 gold in your starting army, netting you roughly, what, 2,200 value? I mean, that's a great uptrade. And then the Slangors doubling their value is pretty vicious. They were resummoned, I believe, but a majority of it was on those first lives, and they just crushed all the Dwarven units. Pesties were a little bit lackluster, but again, they were in a pretty rough fight right out the gate. And what they did offer was just huge HP pools to keep the Akron's Miners, Brotherhood of Grimnir, and the Nor Gremlings occupied, while the Beastmen brought in some more answers to just run those guys over with the Chariots and the Razor Gore Herd. Throwing axes were helping, and then the fire from the Ungor Raiders. So you really got to appreciate watching some very clean Beastmen play. But Killean made a game out of that. It's a brutal matchup. But I think maybe with an earlier second cannon and then just using the Slayers to defend the backline instead of going for the Giant Slayers first, maybe we can see something a little bit different. Now, the Giant Slayers, I think, would have been really good for the late game. Because they do have slightly better and more consistent damage, just because they have much higher AP values. Beastmen, being fairly lightly armored, are pretty vulnerable to Slayer damage, but Giant Slayers, without getting shot up by stuff like the Ungor Raiders and attacked by Slangors, could very quickly just destroy and demolish Butchers of Kalkengard, Razorgore herds, Senegors, and take nary a lick of effective damage. Yeah, that's going to be it for this one, guys. I hope y'all enjoyed. And I'll have a few more replays for the channel coming out over the course of the next week or so, I believe. I'm not sure how exactly we're managing the schedule, but, you know, they'll all be on eventually. Keep an eye out for them, and I'll see you guys next time. Till then, peace.